Good morning, everybody, and I welcome you all in Tricicon 2010. So, friends, what I am going to discuss is management issues in coronary artery disease. Now, basically, this topic can be divided into two parts. One is pharmacotherapeutic advances, and second one is interventional updates. Now, I will not be touching pharmacotherapeutic part, as three subsequent talk by Dr. Anish Bhai, Urmil Bhai and Satya Gupta will take care of that. What we will be discussing is interventional updates in the management of coronary artery disease, and in this also I will like to highlight only 3 points. First and foremost is triage and transfer for PCI in patients with ST elevation MI, and ACC/AHA has published latest update in 2009 of STEMI guidelines, and according to this, the ACC/AHA recommends that STEMI patient who comes to you and is a candidate for reperfusion, if it is initially seen at a PCI capable facility, then there is no controversy. Patient should be sent for primary PCI. It is a class 1 indication. But if it is seen at non-PCI capable facility, which is usually the case, then you have got two options. You can either transfer the patient for primary PCI or you can start thrombolysis. Now, the judgment whether to send patient for PCI or to send for thrombolysis depends on many observations. Important amongst them are: number one, mortality risk of STEMI. How big the ST elevation MI is. What is the risk of bleeding with fibrinolytic therapy? It is very important to note the duration of the symptoms when patient is first seen, and also what is the time required for transport to a PCI capable facility. And based on these findings, patients best suited for transfer for PCI from non-PCI capable facility to PCI capable facility in ST elevation MI is patients who are high risk, those patients who are having large MI, patients having high bleeding risk from fibrinolytic therapy, and late presenters, that is those presenting more than 4 hours after the symptoms, when thrombolysis is not going to help much. Now, as I said, the decision should also take into consideration required time for the transport to PCI capable facilities and also capabilities of the receiving hospital. And which are the patients in whom you can give option of thrombolysis? That is number one, those presenting very early after symptom onset, less than 3 hours, and those who are having low bleeding risk from thrombolysis. Now, if you have chosen primary PCI, then obviously patient will be shifted to a PCI capable facility. But if you have chosen thrombolysis, then again you have to take a judgment whether patient is high risk or not. If patient is high risk, the patient should receive appropriate antithrombotic therapy, and then he should be moved immediately to PCI capable facility, irrespective whether thrombolysis is successful or not. But in low risk patient, you can take a call, either giving appropriate treatment, you may electively shift that patient to PCI capable facility, or you can observe in the initial facility for some time, and then depending upon the symptoms and pre-discharge treadmill test, you can send these patients for subsequent management. So that was the guidelines for triage and transfer for STEMI patients for PCI. Alright, now we go to the second point, that is non-ST elevation MI and unstable angina. Here, very important to decide whether patient should be sent for initial invasive versus initial conservative strategy, and this decision is again taken depending upon the risk stratification, and this risk stratification is done according to the TIMI risk scores or GRACE risk scores, and you have to take into account the history and presenting features. I am not going into details. You can check this risk scores in the ACC/AHA guidelines. Now coming to the third point, that is percutaneous intervention. Now all of you will agree with me that the complexity of the PCI treated patient is increasing over a period of time, and more complex cases are now being treated with PCI versus CABG. But the science need evidence. So what are the evidence comparing PCI versus CABG? Lots of trial in last 2 decades have compared PCI and CABG. Some of the earlier trials were in the pre-stent era, where primary PTCA was compared with CABG. Then came bare metal stent. So PCI with bare metal stent was compared with CABG. And then in 2001, drug-eluting stent arrived, and we had some registry or some retrospective comparison of drug-eluting stent PCI with CABG. But up till 2003-2004, the existing trials did not address the real-world questions. They were limited to highly selected patient subpopulations. They were lacking active control. So they were more or less all registries, and they were not utilizing current standard practice for CABG and PCI. So in 2003 and 4, a landmark trial was designed, which is called as SYNTEX trial, that is synergies between PCI with Taxus, that is a drug-eluting stent, paclitaxel drug-eluting stent with coronary artery bypass surgery. Now, the objective of this study was to incorporate the technological advances and changes in clinical practice in both percutaneous intervention as well coronary artery bypass surgery, which needs to be reassessed thoroughly. And also, it was an attempt to provide an evidence base to determine the best treatment option for patient in a real world population seen by cardiac surgeon and interventional cardiologist in daily practice. So SYNTEX trial was intended all-comer study designed. So instead of highly selected population, more or less real world patients were included in the study, and instead of the conventional inclusion and exclusion criteria, there was a consensus physician agreement. That is, both surgeon and cardiologist will sit together and decide whether to randomize the patient in the study. It also nested registries for CABG only and PCI only to define patient characteristics and outcomes of these two unique treatment plan. So it was a novel approach. Close collaboration between cardiac surgeon and interventional cardiologist. If both of them felt that patient could be revascularized equally by CABG and PCI, then the patient was randomized. If they thought that patient is suitable for only one treatment option, then patient was enrolled for registry. And if patient was not suitable for either treatment, then patient was not enrolled in SYNTEX trial. And as I said, it had open inclusion criteria. So all patients having complex features, like patients having triple vessel disease, with or without left main disease, patients having chronic total occlusion, patients having history of cerebrovascular accident of more than 1 month duration, patients with renal and respiratory insufficiency, LV dysfunction, patients having ongoing myocardial ischemia, or patients having comorbidity, all of them were included in the study. So this was really a real world population. There were limited exclusion criteria. Patients having history of previous intervention, acute MI with CPK more than 2 times, and patients having requiring concomitant cardiac surgery were excluded in study. And this study included left main disease with which may be isolated or with single, double or triple vessel disease, as well as 3 vessel disease were included, and the condition was that patient has to be revascularized with all 3 vascular territories. So multiple sites in United States and Europe, the surgeon and cardiologist will decide whether to randomize the patient or send the patient to registry arm. Randomized arms had 1800 patients, out of which 897 had CABG, while PCI was performed in 903 patients, while in two registry arms, total 1275 patients were included, and out of that 1700 were in CABG arm, while PCI arm had 198 patients. The patient population consisted of 2/3 of the patients with triple vessel disease, while 33, that is 1/3 of the patient had got left main disease. Each patient was assessed with regard to patient's operative risk by Euroscore and Personet score, while coronary lesion complexity was assessed by newly developed Syntax score. And the goal of the Syntax score was to provide guidance on optimal revascularization strategies for patients with high risk lesion. And the Syntax score took into consideration all the anatomical aspects like calcification, number and location of lesion, presence or absence of left main lesion, three vessel disease, total occlusion, tortuosity, bifurcation, and presence or absence of thrombus. All of these were taken into consideration while giving the Syntax score. And the ultimate goal of this Syntax score was to provide an angiographic tool to semi-quantitatively grade the complexity of the coronary lesion and also to obtain evidence-based guidelines for selecting revascularization technique. Endpoints of Syntax trials were MACE, which is defined as all-cause death, CVA or stroke, documented MI, and any repeat revascularization, and all the events were CEC adjudicated. Now, we have already 2 years results of Syntax trial which is available. The follow-up has been very good. 1 year follow-up is 96.7%, while 2 year follow-up is 95.6%. And what is the result? 1 year result, death CVA MI rates were similar between CABG and PCI. But CVA, that is stroke, was increased significantly as in CABG arm as compared to PCI arm. The repeat revascularization and MACE rates were in favor of CABG, and it is statistically significant. Non-inferiority was not met for 12-month MACE. And we have also got 2 years results of Syntax trials, which was published in TCT last year. Again, 2 years, all-cause death, CVA, MI, the curves overlap. There is no difference between CABG versus PCI. But the repeat revascularization rates at 2 years was significantly high with PCI than CABG. MACE at 2 years again favors CABG, and it is statistically significant. But what is interesting, analysis of subpopulation of this Syntax trial was that patients who were having less complex lesions, those having low Syntax score of which was defined as 0 to 22, they were having no difference to MACE at 2 years between CABG and PCI arm. And those having intermediate Syntax scores, having 23 to 32 Syntax score was again having no statistical significant difference between MACE. But patients with complex lesions, that is Syntax score more than 33, had a significant difference in MACE between CABG and PCI arm. So, we can say from the summary of the available results of the Syntax trials that 2 year MACE rates significantly higher for PCI than CABG, and it is mainly driven by repeat revascularization in the PCI arm. And also it is to be noted that MACE rates at 2 years were not significantly different for patients with low or intermediate baseline syntax score, but for patients with high syntax score, MACE continued to be increased at 2 years in patients treated with percutaneous intervention. The 2-year syntax results suggest that CABG remains the standard care for patients with complex disease, that is high syntax scores. However, PCI may be an acceptable alternative revascularization method to CABG when treating patients with less complex, that is low or intermediate syntax score disease. Now, 2-year MACE rates for CABG and PCI registry were 12.9 and 28.6% respectively, and this syntax patient will continue to be followed up for 5 years. So, my dear friends, if we extrapolate these findings of the result of the syntax trial to clinical practice, then we can come to the inference that 3-vessel disease and 3-vessel disease, triple vessel disease are all not same. For example, here this patient has got critical proximal LAD, proximal circ, and 2 discrete lesions in RCA. If you calculate syntax score in this patient, it was 21. Now this patient is different from this one. Patient having critical left main, then circumflex is totally occluded just after origin, and LAD is having critical 99% lesion. RCA is having again chronic total occlusion at its origin, and the calculated syntax score is 52. So these 2 patients are different. These patients having triple vessel disease can very well be treated with PCI and giving as good result as CABG, but this patient will be preferable to be sent for coronary artery bypass surgery rather than to subject him for percutaneous intervention. Similarly, for left main, unprotected left main population, if you look at the results of the study, if you exclude the patient who were put into CABG registry, those having high syntax score or patients having left main with diabetes, the remaining patients who were in PCI registry or having low or intermediate score syntax score and having unprotected critical left main lesion will be around 34%. So this 34% of the all patients with left main lesions are best treated with PCI, which is an excellent alternative to surgery at least up to 2 years. And if these recommendations are accepted, then the possible recommendation for unprotected left main drug-eluting stent, at present it is class 3 indication. That means it should not be done. But if we believe the results of the syntax trial, then of course it is not a class 1 indication, but at the same time it is not class 3 indication. So patients having isolated ostial or mid-shaft left main, or patients having ostial mid-shaft left main with 1 vessel, it is a class 2 indication. So it is reasonable to perform procedure or administer the treatment. But patients having isolated distal left main with 1 vessel or left main with more than 1 vessel, if syntax score is low and complete revascularization achievable, it may be class 2B indications that procedure or treatment may be considered. So my dear friends, that were the 3 main points that I wanted to highlight as far as the CAD management is concerned at present, and that was mainly interventional update. Thank you very much.